Chapter 1.4 Metatron wakes Keila up. The angel Metatron was observing the agitated and fearful Edenites via the Divine Control Center, located on the asteroid B528b, just above the asteroid B528a. The intended paradise, governed according to Yahweh's strict but fair rules under the hands of Abraham Goldstein, had turned into a hellhole where chaos reigned, and the population was killing and raping each other on an unprecedented scale. All the troubles had started a couple of days ago, when a Terran Council starship had shown up and blown up a rebel ship, a ship called Miss Freedom, just outside the atmosphere of Eden, at a height only 1.5 kilometers up from the surface. The explosion had caused a widespread panic on Eden and exposed the great lie they had been told since the beginning of Eden era. The outmost lie that Earth had been destroyed decades ago and the people of Eden was all that remained of humanity. From there, things had gone worse. For no reason whatsoever, the religious militia on Eden, who was meant to uphold the law, had attacked and killed the angel Eremiel. The idiots of angels, Hamshel and Haniel, had then made things worse when they came in with guns blazing, severely decimating the militia while failing to save their fellow friend Eremiel, who was beyond saving, as his corpse was so badly injured and wasn't able to be cryogenically revived in the Divine Control Center. Finally, this mysterious woman, Keila, showed up out of nowhere and killed his grandmaster, Abraham Goldstein. But in the chaos, there was an opportunity. Metatron did not approve of the way Abraham had governed Eden, and he could not understand the motivations behind his former master's actions. Before they set out and created Eden, Abraham had promised that they would lead a revolutionary new world and that his authority came directly from Yahweh. At first, Metatron had been enthusiastic about their prospects and being part of such a grand plan. It had, however, changed over the years, and the turning point was when Abraham's physical body had died several decades ago, leaving only his brain to survive. Metatron had supported his superior archangel Lucifer's idea to keep Abraham's brain frozen and then find a suitable robotic body to replace the dead corpse. But the Abraham who came back alive, albeit as a human brain, and was living inside the machine, was not the same man as he had served and looked up to his entire life. Gone was the visionary of sanctification, and what remained was a petty, cruel, and narrow-minded abomination who put the Edenites through the years of torment and fear. Many years later, Archangel Lucifer apparently betrayed Abraham, and when they were sent to punish him, Archangel Lucifer took Angel Michael with him to the afterlife. But why had Lucifer betrayed Abraham? Metatron had secretly given the question some thoughts over the years. Lucifer had been the archangel, and Abraham had treated him like his son. He had kept the issue for himself and never discussed it with anyone. If Abraham could kill his favorite angel Lucifer, he would have no doubts about killing Metatron, should reasons arise. But now that Abraham was gone, and that's where the opportunity lay. Metatron knew that his standing among the angels was low. In fact, his status was the lowest in the pecking order. He had worked mostly with maintaining the systems that operated the Divine Control Center and maintenance of Eden. And although his efforts were crucial for their survival, he just did not receive the same recognition the other angels got. The others expected him to do his job without error, but never gave him credit for doing so. With the sudden appearance of Keila and the death of Abraham, as well as her seizing the divine godship, things had changed. When she put it on a reckless manner, the divine system had short-circuited and locked them all unconscious from the psionic blast. As Metatron woke up first of everyone after the explosion, he had felt the opportunity. She could be something he could not, and she could be the next leader of Eden. If he played his cards right, he could become her closest and most trusted angel and finally get the status and recognition he deserved. Metatron had found Keila unconscious and severely wounded. He had placed her on life support and connected her to the divine detector machine to send her mind to the divine dimension. Hopefully, this way she would regain consciousness and make it possible for the other angels to feel her presence. Metatron's plan had worked out. The other angels had felt her presence, and he had managed to convince them to elevate her to leadership instead of killing her as a revenge for Abraham's death. It had helped that he had spoken with conviction while all the other angels had been confused and disoriented after the blast. Metatron decided that it was time to talk to Keila and that he was the first she should see. He walked up to Keila's sickbed and disconnected her from the divine detector machine, transporting her to consciousness back to the room she was in. Keila woke up. Keila looked around the room. She felt disoriented and confused. She could swear that she had been to a heavenly extraterrestrial paradise for several hours. Keila often had intense dreams, but what she had experienced there was stronger than any dream. It was not dreamlike, but it felt very real. In front of her was a very handsome man. Was he one of the angels? And if so, why was she still alive? The man smiled at her and started to speak. Metatron said, "The angel Metatron at your service. Welcome back, Mistress Keila." Keila said, "Okay, I'm Keila Eisenstein from the Martian Humanist Alliance. I'm not your mistress. Am I a prisoner here?" Metatron said, "Oh, absolutely not. Quite the contrary. You are the possessor of the divine golden crown implanted with the god chip, and thus you are the rightful ruler of Eden. At least that's what I told my peers." Keila said, "But you don't think so?" Metatron said, "I am merely a humble servant of the Divine Master. What I think does not matter." Keila said, "Cut the bullshit and the pleasantries. Last thing I remember before the blast, I was about to be gang raped, tortured, and slowly killed. And now you are talking about elevating me to leadership. What's really going on here? Metatron said, Okay, so if you prefer me to be upfront, the psionic blast that occurred when you put on the divine golden crown should have killed you, and it probably would have if I did not wake up first from the blast and quickly connected you to the life support. However, I have used the argument that you survived the blast to convince the others that you were indeed sent by Yahweh to replace Abraham Goldstein, as Abraham clearly had strayed from the righteous path. Whether you survived due to the divine intervention or my intervention is irrelevant. If we play our cards right, we can rule Eden together. Keila said, And if I don't want to participate? Metatron said, Well, then I assume what awaits us both is a slow and painful death at the hands of the other angels. Keila said, That's good enough motivation for me. I'm in. Metatron said, Good. You'll tell the others that you were sent by the divine Yahweh personally to replace the wicked Abraham who strayed from the path. Keila said, Got it. Metatron said, Just between you and me. Did Yahweh send you? Keila said, I'm unsure. I had visions that told me to come here to Eden after I narrowly escaped the Terran fleet. Keila paused for a bit. She was unsure whether she would tell her newfound ally in front of her about seeing the corpse of Yahweh in whatever strange place her consciousness had been transported to. She decided to disclose everything, as by all accounts, Metatron was the only reason she was still alive. Keila said, Well, in my dream, while I was unconscious, I saw a dead man. I think it was Yahweh. Metatron studied Keila for a while without saying anything. He looked troubled. Eventually, he decided to speak up. Metatron said, What you experienced was not a dream. It was real. Your mind traveled to the divine dimension when I connected you to the divine detector machine. If Yahweh indeed is dead, Abraham must have killed him. Yahweh has been looking after our people for over 5,000 years. What is to become of us now? Then again, you could be lying. Keila said, Be that as it may, it's quite easy for you to find out the truth. Connect yourself to the machine, go to the divine dimension, you'll find the corpse of Yahweh there. Metatron said, But I'm just a man. I'm not worthy. Keila said, Says who? If God is dead, who determines who is worthy to enter his domains? Metatron said, You are right. I have spent too much time following others blindly. Send my consciousness to the divine dimension. Keila helped connecting Metatron to the divine detector machine, and she could see him falling unconscious as she started the machine. She looked at the face of Metatron. He had a masculine and a good-looking face, albeit he looks a decade older than her, and he seemed to sleep very deep and peacefully. Seeing Metatron in this helpless state gave Keila terrible flashbacks to her ultimate betrayal towards Joshua, the boy she dated for a while, just on the day before. She had acted on her strange voices and visions telling her to murder Joshua in cold blood while he was connected to the divine detector machine. Her visions were never wrong, and her premonition was the reason that she, despite her young age of 22, had become the beacon of light for the downtrodden of masses of the solar system and the #1 enemy of the oppressive Terran Council plutocrats on Earth and Mars. For the first time in Keila's life, she felt a broad sense of regret, and she broke down in tears from what she had done. Eventually, Metatron came back from the divine dimension. He was awe-stricken from what he had seen. Yahweh was indeed dead, and his entire life and purpose to honor Yahweh had come to naught and lost all meaning. He saw Keila sitting in a corner crying and shaking uncontrollably. Without saying anything, he followed his instinct and went over to her, held her tight, and then started crying himself. They sat there for hours, crying silently without saying anything. It was the closest Metatron had ever felt to someone.